Welcome back to another episode of The Dadger. Today's guest is someone Badger fans will definitely remember, Leo Musso. Musso. Sorry, I said Musso.
Musso.
Okay.
Yep, I've heard
a
it all.
three-time
So
a three-time state champ at Waunakee, Leo walked on at Wisconsin and went on to become a team MVP and earn honorable mention all Big Ten honors as a hard-hitting safety. These days, he's traded pads for a briefcase, now working as an attorney and navigating life as a proud father of one. From Camp Randall to the courtroom, Leo's story is all about grit, perseverance, and what it means to lead, both on and off the field and at home. Thanks for joining us, Leo.
Adam, thank you for having me.
So, we talked a little bit before we even started recording, but you're from Waunakee. Tell us a little bit about your family and upbringing there.
So I was actually born in Rockford, Illinois.
Okay.
Lived there for 10 years, and that's where both my mom and my dad are from. And then a few years after their divorce, we moved to Wanakee when I was 10 years old, just me, my mom, and my little brother. Um, and it was the best. I mean, Wanakee was a phenomenal place for me to grow up in, obviously, with um, the football background. That was, believe it or not, at the young age of 10, a big reason why, uh, I moved there. It's kind of a funny story. I was super upset about leaving Rockford. Obviously, all my cousins and family and, the little friends that I did make while I was in school were there. So I was super been out of shape about it. And I think, my mom kind of gave me a few different options or different places to live around the Madison area. And I don't know if it was uh, legitimate or not. She was just trying to temporarily appease me
Yeah.
and my upset 10-year-old self. But um, got on the old AOL dial up and stumbled upon the Wanakee football website, which they had up and running at the time, incredibly, and saw that they had won a few state championships and the numerous conference championships that they had. And I was like, this is the spot. I knew at a young age. So
Yeah, that's crazy. You were thinking about that type of stuff when you were 10.
yeah, you know, it was kind of crazy. Football was, I think, having cousins that were my age and um, everybody loved football and just sports and being super competitive at the time. We would always go to my grandma's house on Sunday, and there was always enough of us to field two different teams and rough house with each other. So football was kind of like the sport where you proved yourself.
Sure. So before we dig into your football career, I couldn't find much about the rest of your high school career. I found on a website that said your freshman year you did track, you qualified for the 4x1, and then the sophomore year you also qualified for the 4x1 and the 100. So did you do any other sports, and did you, um, I guess, did you do track all 4 years as well?
I did track the first 3 years, like full time. I was kind of in and out my senior year, doing enough to make sure I qualified to be able to compete in meets. But at that point, I was kind of training for collegiate football mode. So um, wasn't as involved as I was in the 3 previous years. But CYO basketball was another big thing that me and my buddies played. It's something that we didn't take too serious. I think we'd show up to the games on can't remember if it was early Saturday or Sunday morning with bags of McDonald's, Diet Cokes, right there on the bench. And, some guys would definitely get hot and play more than others. And some would definitely be feeling it from the night before, I think senior year, and would have to get a little more rest on the bench.
So qualifying for state as a freshman is not an easy task, especially in sprints. Were you always just naturally fast?
I would say I was faster. Obviously, there was a million people faster than I was at the state track meet. I wasn't really track guy. My
Yeah.
body type is not by any means similar to Usain Bolt's or any
Yeah.
of these other sprinters. I had no formal track training. Um, I figured it was just something that, with based on other really great players that I looked up to, I saw that they all ran track. Um, and I'm like, well, it kind of makes sense for a high school running back to prove his speed or improve his speed by sprinting. So that was kind of the idea behind that.
Yeah. Um, so you played for Waunakee during a three-peat of state championships. Those were some absolutely dominant teams, culminating in your senior season where you not only set personal records but team records. What was it? I guess what was it like being on such a dominant team? Because that your senior season, I think you won. I think you goose egged them, didn't you?
In the state championship.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So it was kind of growing up in Waunakee, football was our entire lives. Um, from the time we put on the pads in fourth grade to our senior season, there was a lot of, uh, obviously, all the guys are the same. Um, and a lot of the plays were actually the same too. That's one of the unique things about Waunakee football, at least at the time. I'm not quite certain how it's operating now on the youth level, but a lot of the foundational plays that we ran in high school started way back in fourth grade. And I think that was all kind of by design from Pat Rice, who uh, was the high school coach there for what seemed like forever. He retired a few years ago. Um, but he's a legend. He was bred to coach high school football, and he obviously did a phenomenal. That's an understatement. He did a phenomenal job of doing it, and I have so much respect for that man, and obviously all the assistant coaches underneath him and everybody else. That's one of the unique things about Waunakee that you don't hear too often is how involved the community is with supporting the football team. And it was, that's kind of going back to what I said earlier. One of the best things for me as a young boy trying to become a man growing up and getting involved in that was really special.
Your senior season at state, you had 27 touches for 181 yards and 4 touchdowns, which broke a Division II record. Having played running back at Camp Randall with so much success in high school, was the decision an easy one once Wisconsin finally offered you?
It was actually, my recruiting story is a little nuts.
Yeah.
I didn't officially receive an offer from Wisconsin until a week before signing day. Um, at that time, I think I had an offer from South Dakota State and NIU. Both were to play running back, which is all I played in high school. I played no defense. I couldn't tell you the difference between cover one, cover two, cover three, and I swear to God, I didn't know what backpedaling was. Um, and uh, as I'm getting ready to walk into our football banquet senior year, I get a call from Brett Bielema, and he's like, "Hey, you got a few minutes?" And I'm like, "Hey, Coach, I'm actually getting ready to walk into my football banquet. Can I give you a call back in about an hour?" And certainly I did. And uh, because at that point in time, it was like the offer was like a gray shirt, and then it was like a 2 for 3. You walk on for 2 years, we'll give you a scholarship the remaining three. Which,
Yeah.
I don't really know the how that specifically works out, or how that works in terms of actually receiving an
Yeah.
offer the third year, but that was kind of the position that I was in, and called him back. Said, we're going to offer you. And I'm like, this is awesome. Like, can I go and tell everybody I know and give you a call back later on? And, in the back of my mind, this is also to provide some context. Coach Christ, who was the OC at
Yeah.
Wisconsin, took the head coaching position at the University of Pittsburgh. he
Mm-hmm.
took some of his assistant coaches with him. Um, and I think he even took a couple position coaches from NIU, and it was like these three schools that I
Yeah.
ended up having offers from were kind of trading coaches. So it was like, obviously I met with Coach Christ and Joe Rudolph a million times at Camp Randall while they were
Yeah.
coaching for Wisconsin. Then, uh, you know, when they decided to take that position at the University of Pittsburgh, they're coming to my house and pit stuff. So,
Right.
it's kind of that triangle of madness towards the end. And it got to the point where I had a few officials left. Obviously, this is all a week before signing day, so nothing major. I wasn't like I was a major recruit that was going all over, but I'm like, this is what I always dreamed about. I want to try to use up another official visit and go visit the University of Pittsburgh, um, which I had scheduled. And that was in the back of my mind as I'm asking for a slight delay in the response when I'm
Yeah.
talking to Brett Bielema. And um, called him back and I'm like, hey, coach, obviously I really, really appreciate the offer. Um, would it like, can I just take my last official visit to Pitt? Obviously, I want to come to Wisconsin, but being a recruit and seeing all these other guys go all over the place and kind of live that life is something that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Um, and he's like, you know, at the time, he's like, and I get his position, but as an 18-year-old, it was tough. Told me, Leo, if you get on that plane, I can't guarantee that you'll have an offer when you get back. And obviously, that's a very serious decision that you have to make a week before signing day at 18 years
Yeah.
old. So
Yeah.
um, I'm. It was me and one of my best buddies, Jack Russell, who was kind of in a similar position. He was a kicker
Yep.
for Waunakee, and we were both deciding between Pitt and Wisconsin essentially. And we're supposed to take a flight the next day out to Pitt for our official visit, get to the airport at like 4 so we can board the first flight out. And we're sitting in my head coach, Pat Rice, his basement at the time. We're just weighing all the pros and cons of both options essentially, because that's kind of what it came down to. If I would have went to Pitt, I would have been able to play offense. If I went to Wisconsin, I knew that I was going to play defense. So just little things like that, you're kind of weighing uh, the benefits and I guess perceived negatives of both options. And at around 1 a.m., we kind of reached our decision. I had to call, I think it was Chris Herring at the time, who's a phenomenal guy. I truly miss him. He ended up being a special teams coordinator at Wisconsin for us, and he was an awesome, awesome dude. I didn't know him at the time, obviously, too well, but gave him the call. And then next call was to Brett Bielema, telling him I was committed. So it was that big rush all the week before signing day, and um, happy it worked out the way that it did.
Yeah. So it seems like you leaned pretty heavily on your high school head coach for to kind of like bounce, what you really wanted to do off of, correct? Like he
Oh,
he played a
absolutely.
pretty big part in helping you kind of wade through those waters, so to speak.
Ginormous. A tremendous, just because his opinion held a lot of weight with me. He was somebody that I looked up to as a role model and somebody I had, an immense amount of respect for. So he was kind of my sounding board. And I think, even if he had been like, Leo, maybe you should consider Pitt a little more, I probably would have been like, okay, like I'm
Yeah.
going to consider Pitt a little more. That's how much respect I have for this man to this day.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, he was a great benefit for me as a young man trying to figure out this major life decision.
Did any of the schools, I mean, obviously Wisconsin kind of put you on a shot clock there, but in the recruiting process, did any of the other schools have any like memorable pitches that made the decision between the rest more difficult?
Um,
Or was it more so like, I'm either going to go play offense or I'm going to go play defense? Which one do I want to do?
well, everywhere else would have been offense,
Yeah, okay.
and that was kind of cool. Me and um, my buddies went and did a camp. So how I ended up kind of receiving the South Dakota State offer, we went to the North Dakota State. We loaded up my uh, one of my best friends, suburban in high school, just three kids, and we're sleeping in the back of this thing, going to these camps out in North Dakota, and it was like a brutal camp. It was hot as ever. Uh, you know, it was a lot of fun. And we ended up stopping at South Dakota State on our way home, and they offered me there. This was obviously the summer leading up to our senior season, and at that time they had their new facilities. So it was like it was my truly my first like big time Division One offer.
Yeah.
So it was awesome. I was like elated. The thing that I've always dreamed about growing up. All those, uh, you have a great high school career, and there's guys that you can compete with, and to receive that first offer was like essentially a weight lifted off my shoulders, because I definitely wasn't smart enough to get into any school. I was a little bit of a shithead, excuse my language, and didn't take school too seriously. I was the guy that was trying to turn in assignments at the end of the year, try to learn an entire subject the night
Yeah.
before the exam. So I always kind of viewed school as a means to stay eligible for football, and I was just doing enough uh, to make sure I wasn't failing, essentially. Um, so football was like kind of all of my focus was on football,
Yeah.
and yeah, that was kind of the going back to your original question. Any sales pitches? NIU was then next, and they were awesome. I think it was Coach Carey who was the head coach at the time, and they um, went to a big BCS bowl game. They played Florida State. I can't remember if it was in the
Okay.
Orange Bowl or what it was specifically, but I mean, their program was rocking at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Rockford, so I
Right.
always loved NIU growing up. And they were just super great about staying in touch. I think they kind of knew in the back of their head that if Wisconsin did offer, then their hopes were kind of out the window, and that was
Yeah.
true to an extent.
In Wisconsin recruiting you, you had I don't know how accurate this is, but I was reading articles. You had Luke Swan and Ben Strickland in contact with you during the recruiting process. We actually had Luke on here, but you have two guys from both from Wisconsin. Both found success later in their college years. One offense, one defense. Did they kind of talk to you about where you would fit into that system, or I guess what were those correspondence like?
They were both awesome. Um, Coach Swan, I'll refer to him as, because he was my coach at the time, uh, kind of had a more soft spoken, gentler, I think, approach, and was like very warm. Coach Strickland was uh, not as soft, but still very warm, and not a lot more relatable, but relatable.
Yeah.
Obviously, similar sizes, me understanding that I was going to play defense. And I think he was just realistic with the conversations that we've had, which, to me, I prefer, whether it's something I want to hear or not. And he knew defense so well that everything he, talked to me about was something that I tried to absorb. So different styles, but both extremely effective, and both I took a ton away from at that time.
You have a great quote in an article you did with Madison.com where they're talking about Brett Bielema saying you could try your hand at running back but you'd be coming up behind the basically the likes of Monty Ball, and you knew it wouldn't be likely. You then go on to say, "I'm not in love with the position. I'm in love with the game." Was there any position that they would have asked you to play that they like you would have said no, or was it as long as I'm able to help the team and I'm on the field, I'll do whatever it takes?
Yeah, 100%. I loved playing football. 100% loved playing football. And, they could have asked me to do anything at any point in time and I would have done it. And, in a large part, with collegiate football, you do that. If you got to
Yeah.
be somewhere at a certain time, you're there. If you got to look after a certain dude, you got to look after that certain dude. And um, that responsibility, obviously playing major Division I football comes with a lot of responsibility, but that's something that I always dreamed about. I used
Yeah.
to hope and pray for that. So I was like, anything, it doesn't matter what it is. If you need me to go pick up coffees for everybody, and I probably did that at some point, my
Yeah.
freshman year or so.
Back to the call. When you finally give Bielema the call back to commit, you ask him how many guys you know that are undefeated at Camp Randall before they even play for the Badgers. Did you go into Madison as a freshman with with like that confidence as well, or were you a little less confident because you knew you were going to have to go to the defensive side of the ball and weren't, super experienced on that side of the ball?
Um, I think more like technical. I was confident in my abilities, but not confident in the technical X's and O's of the game.
Yeah.
Because that what I said earlier, that's a true statement. I didn't even know what cover two was until I got to the University of Wisconsin. So um, a lot of it is trying to figure out as much as you can on your own. You're trying to figure out how to uh, work the system where you can watch film. At that time, I don't think we had iPads yet, so it was literally you had to go up into the office, and there weren't many freshmen going up there at that time doing that. And um, obviously, seniors at the time and leaders on the team would pull guys together and kind of go over stuff. But I think when you're a true freshman, it's kind of expected that you're going to be a scout team guy. So I was never not confident in my abilities, but just the analytical side of the game, I had no clue.
Would you say that was the biggest transition for you from high school to college on the field?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the
I mean, I think just because everything was so new that I don't know if there's one specific thing that I could point to. Um, I guess my mentality going into it was like I got to figure this out. I was brought here for a reason, and being 15 minutes away from where I grew up, it's like
yeah.
I want to make sure I'm, not only representing my family, but representing the community of Waunakee and all my friends and everybody who helped me get to this point. I want to make sure that I'm paying respects to them by doing the best that I can. So it was always just a game of you got to figure this out. And at one point, it seemed like it clicked. So
You talked a little bit about in high school you were the kid kind of always trying to turn in homework assignments at the end. Uh, you ended up getting academic honors through your um, college career at Wisconsin, which is, I mean, impressive in itself. What switched there from being the kid who was turning in homework at the end of the year to going to academic honors at UW?
I think it was a lot more structured. Um, I don't think that I was ever a stupid kid, but I just didn't know what I didn't know,
Yeah.
um, and uh, getting in a more structured environment where I felt comfortable, asking stupid questions because I asked plenty of them, and kind of being taught how to be a student. Um, that helped out a ton. And I think we kind of discussed like, you know, confidence when you're going in there as a freshman. It's like, okay, uh, where are all the things I can excel at? Like, I didn't want to give the coaches any reason to be mad at me, essentially,
Right.
you
Yep.
know? So I was like, school is easy enough. I just have to show up to class every day. I have to go to tutors and study hall, and I just have to do my homework. It's not going to be the best product, but it's better than no product. So got into that rhythm a little bit.
The coach who recruited you, Bielema, ends up leaving after the 2012 season, which I believe you redshirted, right? 2012,
Yep.
you redshirted freshman year. Gary Anderson's then hired from 2013 to 2014, and then Chris is brought in 2015. We talked a little bit about the kind of coaching carousel between NIU, Pitt, and Wisconsin. Once they brought Chris in, uh, did you feel like that was like fate, basically? Like, okay,
Yeah.
he started recruiting me, and now it's come full circle.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, just the whole staff, it was like Wisconsin guys through and through, all across the board. So it's that culture, the guys that, you grow up uh, cheering on and hearing about and why Wisconsin was so good. They were coaching us. Coach Chris was a Madison area kid growing up.
Yep.
Um, Obviously, his dad and him being at Wisconsin for the longest time, it was like, man, this is it really was fate, essentially.
Was that kind of a crazy roller coaster in that kind of weird transition between Bielema to Christ?
Bielema Anderson to Chris.
Yeah, yeah. So like
Yes.
that little gap
Yeah.
period there.
Oh, 100%. I think it was good. Obviously, the defensive scheme changed when Dave Aranda and Gary Anderson came. So at that time, I didn't know anything. It was good for me to learn that, and we carried that through until I was finished playing at Wisconsin. So it was good to be exposed to a brilliant defensive mind like Aranda and uh, Coach Bill Bush. He was our position coach. He did a really awesome job. He was tough, and he was a coach's kid in Nebraska, I think it was growing up. So he had some old school tendencies to him, but he really cared about his guys, immensely cared about his guys, and that was one thing I never questioned with him. But he did a great job of uh, putting the pressure on you to figure stuff out as quickly as possible, which I think benefited me because I just didn't know anything. So,
Did you have a moment or a play that you remember specifically where it sticks out to you, where it basically switched your mindset to feel more confident in starting playing on the defensive side of the ball?
I to be completely honest, like I didn't feel super comfortable playing defense until I think it was uh, spring going into my final season. I played a lot. I was a
Mm-hmm.
special teamers. I played a lot of football, a lot of defensive football, even leading up to that. But you know, I never felt 100% comfortable until that final year. And it was kind of like, I don't know if it was a situation where it was like, this is my final season. I have to do everything in order to make this work. And that is truly what I did.
Yeah,
Every
you had a
excuse that I
hell of
made
a
for
senior
myself, yeah,
year.
every excuse that I made for myself, I'm like, I'm going to do everything I know I need to do and cross out all these excuses. I'm going to be the first to the stadium. I'm going to watch more film than every single person. I'm going to practice harder than everybody. I'm going to work out harder than anybody. I'm gonna, step up and be a leader. And it's like those little things go a long way when you can just get rid of all the excuses that you make for yourself. You know.
You talked a little bit in some interviews you did. You talk about um, well, they asked you about being undersized and on the field. I assume that was kind of a reoccurring theme for you over your tenure playing at Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Did that ever play a factor in how hard you worked? Like, basically, I'm going to shut you up, prove you wrong. Like, I'm not undersized type of thing.
Not that specifically. I mean, you see all that stuff, but it's just like he the message that I would get out of that is that he can't play,
Yeah.
which I hated. You see that a million times on Twitter or whatever it was at the time, telling people, when you would make a mistake or multiple mistakes, you just get ripped to shreds, and that stuff used to piss me off so bad. Um, so that was extremely motivating to be able to prove people wrong. Um, and this is another thing I said too. Expectations that people put on you, obviously being a small white guy who's never played defense from Waunakee, Wisconsin. Um, there's not super high expectations maybe, and then when you get in there and make a mistake, that kind of highlights their previous points. So um, that always drove me to excel and prove people wrong, essentially.
Do a lot of college guys have to like stay off of Twitter and social media and stuff because of, like if you make a mistake at a program like Wisconsin, it feels like people are constantly like tweeting at you or kind of ripping on you. I have a feeling like at some point it's like, okay, I just need to put the phone down and play the game here.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty sure I deleted the Twitter app my senior year just because I'm like, I don't care. I don't care what anybody has to
Yeah.
say about anything. Obviously, I'd still get on and see some of the good things that people were saying and some of the bad things maybe, but maybe using it as a tool. People telling us we're going to get killed by LSU, we're going to get killed by Michigan, we're going to get killed by Ohio State. Using that as a tool in one of my pregame speeches or something, show everybody, hey, look what they're saying. Got to go out there and prove them wrong.
In Since we're talking about senior season, and your senior year, you did a interview with Madison.com. You talked about reaping the benefits of a great system. Do you think the great system was because of Dave Aranda and how he had coached you guys up? Or was it because between you, TJ, Vince, Sojourn, like you guys had so many defensive players that were studs on that team? Or was it like a perfect combination of both?
Both, both. My senior year specifically, so I had Jimmy Leonard as my position coach
Yep.
and Coach Wilcox, Justin Wilcox, as the defensive coordinator. And Dave Aranda was actually on the opposite sideline our first game when we played LSU at
Yeah,
Lambeau.
that's right. That's right.
So it was definitely what created the perfect system was the synergy of both the coaching staff, the locker room, and just the players. We loved playing with each other.
That 2016 season, nobody had you guys making the Big Ten championship. I think a lot of people had you picked to finish like 500 ish because you guys had a really tough schedule that year. You kicked off the season against number 5 LSU at Lambeau, like you talked about. Arguably one of my favorite games I've been at, aside from being at the OSU game when we beat them. Did you guys feel something special like right when you stepped on the field at Lambeau?
Before that, I think we knew we were going to win that game. To be honest, it's like that spring that I was talking about, fall camp leading up to it, and there was just like a certain energy that that team carried. We were all in. We all loved each other, and we all loved playing with one another. We had so much fun practicing. We had so much fun being in the locker room. We had so much fun watching film, and I think the coaching staff really fostered that environment. Um, when you make it exciting to come in and learn from them, and you know not only just learn what you're supposed to do, but learn why they're thinking the way they are, uh, that brings the game to a whole different level. And obviously with Coach Leonard, that uh, brought a whole different level to it, because his experience is just, for me, as a, playing the same position he played and being a small white guy like he was,
Yep.
it was awesome for me. But just the knowledge he was able to, expound onto everybody was extremely beneficial. And it's just like the way that he thought about the game was stuff that I've never heard before. So it was really special.
So it might just be me and it drives my wife crazy, but I tend to go back and think about seasons like that where it just felt like there was something special, especially for you guys on the defensive side of the ball. Like I said, do you ever think about that your senior season in terms of how playoffs are structured now? And if you guys would have been able to make it, like you had the two regular season losses to Michigan, who was number 4, I believe, at the time by a touchdown, and then number 2 to OSU in overtime by a touchdown.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, that's not a bad resume.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, 100%. I think we would have done just fine. We played a really tough schedule, but we held our own against them. Obviously certain plays you wish you had back, and that's really all it was. When you look at those games that are lost by a touchdown, um, there's just one or two plays, one or two drives that it's like, dang, if we would have capitalized here, we would have beat these guys. And we were just, I think we were really talented.
Yeah, so that season, I'm sure you guys felt the same, but like me as a fan in attendance of these two games, they're two of my most memorable games, and it was the LSU game at Lambeau, and then the flip side of that, I went to that Big Ten championship game against Penn State, that
Yeah.
second half comeback. So how did you guys take that in the locker room, and I guess what was it like sitting on that loss for almost a full month before you had to play you guys' bowl game there?
It sucked.
Yeah.
I mean, it was awful, man. We should have won that game. Um, don't want to take anything away from them. They had an extremely talented roster at the time. Mike Gesicki was their tight end. Saquon was back
Yep.
there.
Yep.
Um, and
McSorley was
they
a
had Chris
quarterback, I
Godwin, I
think.
think, too, at the time,
Yeah.
who obviously are or had really successful NFL careers. So they were talented, but we should have beat them. It's just that lapse in the second half. I can't pinpoint it to one specific thing. It just kind of like the our juice shut down, and
Yeah.
they just had a lot of momentum. It seemed like we just started making small mistakes and kind of snowballed out of control from there. Obviously, we didn't get killed, but we lost. So both the same, I think.
Yeah. Um, well, you guys bounced back in the bowl game and beat Western Michigan that year. Was that month off like, okay, that game really, really sucked, but we're not going to lose our final game? Like,
Yeah. Oh, 100. I mean, I think anytime after a loss, like, well, we approach the week like we're going to win. I think that's just a level
yeah,
of confidence that we had. We don't really have time to dwell or sulk on losses, because you want to win the next game. You want to win the next rep at practice. You just have to have that kind of winner's mentality about everything that you do. And it was like, yeah, it sucked, but then it's on to the next. We got to make sure
yeah.
we end the season right.
We talked a little bit about your senior year and how you had a heck of a year there. So you had the forced fumble against LSU to interceptions on the goal line against the Gophers to a scoop and score against Michigan State. Like you had some iconic plays your senior year. You were also voted the team MVP that year. With having such a great year on a successful team, did you have thoughts about pushing football past college at that point?
Yeah, I tried. So I definitely tried. I went and did the. I ended up getting an agent super late in the pre-draft process, which probably didn't help me all too much. Um, I don't know why I chose that route, but I just didn't know any better, to be honest. Um, Ended up getting a agent super late while the draft was going on. I think it was the final day. I got a call from somebody from Seattle, and they're like, "Hey, we're thinking about you in the seventh round. Just uh, stick around, do whatever." And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I will get my name called in the seventh round. That would not that
Yeah.
I was expecting that. I look at myself in the mirror and I see what I look like. So, uh, I wasn't expecting that, but I knew I could play. I'd proven that I could play with and against the best
Yeah.
players in the country.
Yep.
And, I think um, ended up doing the rookie mini camp with the New Orleans Saints. Um, it was me and Ramchek was there. Obviously, he was their first round pick, so I was not. I'm not trying to compare myself to Ramchek level at all. I was just some guy going to mini camp there, and they had this defensive scoreboard uh, that they kept track of all of the points, little things that you do, right? Get the right
Hmm.
play, get the right whatever. And I ended up finishing second, I think, out of all of the rookies on the camp on the scoreboard. I think the first one was that Trey Hendrickson,
Oh, yep.
who's
Yep.
Cincinnati Seattle's. He was the first.
Yep.
He was a stud. Um, and uh, didn't end up getting a call from them. So I was kind of like pissed off about that, kind of let my ego get in the way a little bit. Um, wasn't sure what was going to happen next and ended up getting a call. I was going to train in Wana Key with my little brother who was still in high school at the time. We're just going to go to some soccer field probably and do some football stuff. And on my way to Waunakee, I ended up getting a call from somebody from Seattle, and they're like, "Hey, how quickly can you get to the airport?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm close enough now. I can just kind of show up." Got on a flight there. Didn't end up getting into Seattle at my hotel until like 1:30 a.m., 2 a.m.
Jeez.
Had to wake up at 4 to go do like a 30-minute practice essentially. And after that, I was just like, all right, I'm done. I'm going to start working. Um, if they don't see, again, this is just my ego, which obviously, you know, affected, I think, my any potential that I had playing. I was just so pissed off about it because I knew that I could play with these
Yeah.
guys and seeing some guys getting the opportunity that I knew, I could maybe perform better than.
Hmm.
I was pissed about that. So then I'm like, okay, well, if they don't see my value, somebody else will. And then I went and started working right after I got home.
Was that, um, I guess, as the years went on, was that a tough realization? Like, damn, I should have at least made a squad somewhere in the NFL.
I don't know. I think, hindsight, my wife has a really, really, really phenomenal job. It would have been extremely stupid for me to force her to uproot from
Yeah.
that position. So, like, everything ended up working out better at the end of the day than had I, been moving from team to team to team to forcing her to move and
Right.
say no to that position. So it was like best thing ended up happening at the end of the day. But um, I think at that moment I was a football player my entire life. I
Yep.
I didn't really have dreams of playing in the NFL growing up. I saw college kind of as my big dream. And uh, obviously you're spinning your wheels after you're done playing. It's the game you loved your entire life. You're devoting your entire physical, mental, um, spiritual well-being on. Every decision that you made was geared
Yep.
towards football. Uh, the game that you love one day tells you it doesn't love you back, you know.
Yep.
So that's really tough. And I think a lot of guys post playing career go through that, but a lot of guys don't really talk about it because it's like the analogy that I try to draw to football players is we're like trained canines, right? We have a handler. They tell you to go bite someone, you do. You have to be working out at a certain time. That's what you're doing. You're given a schedule and you follow that. But when you have to start doing that for yourself, it's really tough. And there's I think, a pretty significant learning curve to figuring that out. So um, that was at the moment, yes, but where I'm at now, I doesn't matter.
Yeah. So fast forward, tell us a little bit about how you kind of got to where you are, because you graduated with bachelor's and master's from UW, and then you end up going to Marquette Law School. I think I saw,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
Um, I guess how was that was an attorney always something, like law always something that you wanted to practice, or was it? I guess how did you get into it?
Yeah. I don't. Uh, I didn't know any attorneys really growing up. I had one football coach, Chris Duran, who was an attorney, but I didn't associate that with myself at all. I'd never thought I was super intelligent. Always viewing school as a means to stay eligible for football
Yep.
was really my mentality for a majority of my life. Um, so I went and worked for this company called Spectrum Brands for 2 years as an account manager. We'd always end up sending legal docs to them to get the final approval and just kind of doing a little diligence on, I think just the football mentality that I had. It's like, okay, well, how do you progress? How do you get to the very top, right? Um, you look at, I was looking at like CEOs, backgrounds, and a lot of people that I admired or had respect for had JDs, the law school degrees. So um, I'm like, huh, well, maybe I should give that a go. And um, when I stopped working at Spectrum, I went back and finished my master's, which was a program that I started my fifth season. Didn't do a whole ton with it. Uh, Obviously I was focused on football. And I'm like, okay, I owe it to them and myself to go back there and finish it. And um, I think the master's program was called Educational Leadership and Policy Analysis, and I focused more so on like the collegiate athletic administration, getting more into the administrative side of football and uh, thinking that maybe I can use my experience as a player to advocate for these guys that are going through exactly what I went through, knowing how they feel. So thought about that and then ended up applying to Marquette and got in. And it was so awesome. I really enjoyed law school so much. I made a lot of great friends. And um, it was really the first time in my life where I felt like I was a student. Obviously, I didn't know anything about the law, practicing the law, studying the law. But it was a mental challenge that I thoroughly enjoyed. Being around people with a heightened sense of urgency, which is what I was like with football. Everybody's there to compete, and it's the same in law school. Everybody's there to compete. You're graded on a curve. Um, so it it was awesome. I really enjoyed it, uh, and uh, miss it for sure.
So before your final home game, um, for the Battle for the X, you gave a speech to the team that you're able to watch actually on Badger's YouTube page. But it was a great speech. Was talking in front of people always something you have been comfortable with, or is it something you kind of acquired over the years here after practicing? I guess I should say.
I think like traditionally I was a lead by example guy. I never the talking was I don't like when people just talk. I want to see the actions that back up what you're saying. And that's kind of how I viewed that. But I would speak up when necessary. And I think at that moment in time, I think we were losing to Minnesota. Um, it was necessary. Uh, Other times throughout the season, being viewed as a leader, it's necessary for a leader to say something. So, um, not something that I'm first in line to do, but I will be first in line if I think it's needed.
Are there any qualities now in your professional life that you still use and harness that you attribute having played football at Wisconsin? I mean, you talked a little bit about going through law school and the competitiveness. I assume that's probably one of them, but is there anything else?
Being I think, team player, knowing your role and doing the best at your role, even if it's not the sexiest spot, even if you're not the quarterback or the person who's getting all the notoriety or, fitting into society's norms of what they believe is the very best. It's like, this is my role. I want to be the very best at what I'm doing. How can I add value to people? How can I make my time spent with you valuable? And that's how I always view it. It's like, um, when people treat me good, I want to make sure I treat them better, and that's just kind of how I viewed myself growing up, trying to give people a reason to be proud to be associated with me, essentially, not being an asshole. Sorry, not being a jerk, and just trying to be a good friend on all fronts.
So we'll switch gears here a little bit. Since I stalked you on LinkedIn, I also stalked you a little bit on your socials here. You have a daughter who's going to be turning 2, I believe, in the fall. Is that right? Okay. Uh, how have the first 2 years been? Let me start asking that question.
The best, man. Being a dad is like the most awesome thing in the entire world. I think while my wife was pregnant, there was never a point in time in my life that I had more anxiety, because uh, I wanted to be a really good dad, you know, and um, it was getting to the point where it's like, okay, now it's here. Uh, and I don't remember what life was like before her, as tough as some days were initially. As you know, the sleepless nights, man, they add up and they take a toll. I was on a kind of a crazy sleep schedule where I was waking up at like 2:30, 3 a.m. That's when I study best. Um, and when she would start crying at that time, I'm like, okay, this is when my day's starting. I'm gonna go sit in the rocking chair and rock with her until everybody else is up. And I thought that was gonna be my life until she stopped that. Essentially, we ended up finding like some sleep training program, which was a blessing in disguise, especially for my wife, because as you know, the baby doesn't want the dad in the middle of the night; it wants the mom, right? So I'm useless, and I could tell it was getting rough with my wife. She uh, needed sleep, and
Hey, if you give them enough bottles, they'll take your company.
right. Well, that's the thing. It was getting to that point where that's what I was doing, and I thought that was going to be my life. But it was like, man, it's as difficult as those days were. Changing the blowouts, and then 5 minutes later having to change another blowout. Uh, it seems like my life has been perfect since she's been born. I don't know how to like most accurately describe it because there's tough days, but it's like everything. The journey about it has just been so awesome. Best thing I've ever done in my life, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and my kid's only 7 months, but there's times where he's just like, just push you to your limits, and then 2 seconds later, he's like the sweetest little dude ever. It's like, what's going on here?
Exactly, man. Right? Yeah. After just wailing, crying, and then you go up in the rocking chair and they just give that little smile to you. It's like, oh my gosh.
So everybody jokes about having their friends over when they meet their daughter's boyfriends for the first time. Have you ever thought, like, for you, it's actually might be like a real thing? Like, all right, Vince, TJ, you guys, I need you to pull up. Like, we're gonna pull the scene from Bad Boys 2 here.
Yes, yes, I've sent that to people. Yeah, 100%. I mean, hopefully she doesn't have any boyfriends until I'm old enough to not be worried about that.
I assume you guys haven't been back to I assume you haven't been to a game with her, I should say, with her being under 2.
No, not yet.
Well, okay, so let me ask you this: what was it like the first time you went back, when watching instead of actually playing in the game?
Um, Truthfully, it was a moment of realization that I knew I loved playing the game of football. Um, I wasn't necessarily a fan of football. I'm not keeping up with it a ton today. Obviously, I see, uh, the wins and losses, but um, I think my expectations of game day were very different than what a fan does. Like ideally, I would love to watch a game in a dark room from the end zone copy, and with my clicker to be able to rewind and break it down that way, watching it with the fans, and so again, this is going back to way back in the initial talking points when people would kind of talk shit a little bit about a player. It's like, man, you have no clue you don't even know what the call was. You don't even know why it was called that way or why he meant that wasn't even his guy. So just hearing little things like that, I'm like, okay, it's probably better for me just to stay away and watch it from the confines of my home. And it's easier for me too because I love football. It's hard when I go back around it because it makes me miss it. And maybe one day I won't feel like that as much. But I think I probably will always feel like, man, I love playing this game. I don't want to sit next to people who are bad mouthing people. Yeah.
This has been an awesome interview. Thank you again. And I guess since we're talking kids and football, those kind of go hand in hand with my two final questions here, that I always ask. The first one is, if your daughter and potentially other future kids come across this randomly when they're 18, what is one thing that you hope that they take away from it?
I guess how much I love them. Um, you know, Saying that every day has felt perfect since she's been born is the truth. Um, Despite the hard times, I think that, you don't know, you always hear people say you don't know love until you have a child. And maybe that's what it's associated with. It's just like as tough as some days are, uh, you know, my life has felt like it's been perfect because of her. So
Yeah, definitely. And then I guess I don't know if you'll be able to answer this one since you said you don't really keep up with it, but I got to ask, since it is the Badger, last but not least, how do you think the Badgers are going to do this year?
how do you think they're going to do? And then I'll answer. You tell me.
I think it's going to be a tough schedule. Um,
What do you think about the team generally?
I think Fickle has made some very good coaching decisions, as opposed to, I think when he first got in there, he tried to do too much too quick to change stuff when some of the stuff didn't need to be changed, in my opinion. But like I'm a fan, like you guys, you know what I mean? So I'm probably seeing it from a different perspective than obviously the former players are. But I don't know. It's tough too, because I've talked about this quite a bit on some of my other episodes, but like Wisconsin staple used to be like, bring guys on, bring the massive guys on, the running backs and stuff that we can give scholarships to, and then, bring these guys in from smaller or like Wisconsin guys as walk-ons, and they're the guys, honestly, that work their butts off for the first 2-3 years of their career, and then you see the benefits the last 2 years of their career. Like, right? Like they constantly work their entire career to get to that point. So I don't know how that translates with how NIL and how the transfer portal is now. I just don't know how you're going to be able to still have to build that type of program, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think I've kind of, if I'm hearing you correctly, I think uh I don't know if it seems like we've gotten away from keeping the best Wisconsin guys in state, doing everything possible. I think in the world of NIL, the Wisconsin Badgers have somewhat of a competitive advantage in that world, even if they don't have the best money. Sure, you have to, you know, get these players some money within reason and be reasonable on that front. But I think playing for your home state carries a lot of weight. So if you shift the focus away from that, and that's kind of what I feel like I'm seeing. I don't know how accurate this is. I mean, you can just go and look at any recruiting site and see that some of the top players in Wisconsin are going to Notre Dame, Ohio State, Penn State. And I would really like to see a push to keep the best players in state, because I think we have that competitive advantage being the only big time program in the state of Wisconsin. We can maybe get some really phenomenal players at a discount instead of shopping all over the world and hitting the portal to try to, fill some gaps. And there's not as much loyalty when you do that. It's I don't know how far fetched that statement is, but I just when I think about me and the guys that I played with and the Wisconsin that I grew up with, it was guys who were tremendously proud to represent the state they grew up in. And yeah, I don't know how do we get that back in the world of NIL? I don't know, but I think it'd be smart to keep the best players in state for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I mean, other players that I've had on here have kind of said the same sentiment. So
yeah, but I hope they're. I mean, I want them to be good. The record hasn't reflected the expectations, so there's something's got to be figured out. I don't know what it is. I'm not in tune with it enough to know that, but I know that they need to do better.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. They're gonna finish what, 6 and 7, I think. Just because that's what people picked you guys to finish. So then if I'm wrong, I'm gonna be like, hey, I'll take that. I was wrong. I'll own that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I see we had some great teams before us, so I probably won't be as optimistic as you are. But yeah, they just gotta. I mean, they just have to win ball games, man. Show up and win, and it's harder to do than a lot easier to say. But just know, I hope that they know that people from the state of Wisconsin have a high expectation for a reason, because traditionally we've been very good. Players before them were really good and won and obviously sacrificed a lot. And this is not to say that they're not sacrificing. I know they're still doing everything that we were doing, but when you have pride in your product that you're putting out there, I think it translates to the quality of play you get on the field.
Yep, absolutely. That seems like a good way to wrap it up to me. So that's a wrap on this episode of The Dadger with Leo Musso, a true Wisconsin original. From walk-on to team MVP and now making moves as an attorney and proud dad, Leo's journey is a testament to hard work, heart, and staying true to who you are. Huge thanks to Leo for coming on again. Don't forget if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. Go ahead and follow us on social media if you haven't. Let us know who you want to see next. And as always, on Wisconsin.